All right, here we go, Brandon.
Oh, I'm bringing us in? I know. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you for tuning in. This is One Square at a Time, a leadership perspective of running your team and building the tools you need to become the best leader. We use a superhero's strength to be able to find the tools we need to build the best you. So thank you guys for joining us today. I have Brett Gordon. I'm Brandon Croucher. We are actually going to touch a superhero that is not as near and dear to my heart as it should be being a Clevelander, but very near and dear to my heart because it originated in Cleveland.
Wow, I did not know that.
Actually, in the suburb of Cleveland, Shaker Heights, Ohio, is where Superman was originally, his first comic books were written in the house, like in his house. Yeah. Kind of an interesting little throw you off first thing of the day,
Absolutely. And, after the superheroes, the Supermen of the Cleveland Browns won yesterday, what better comic book heroes do we look at?
I think it's phenomenal because it connects in so many different ways. So let's go. You and I did this a little differently this week. We took 3 different Superman movies with 3 different actors, and we watched them, and we're going to talk about how it changed through each character or actor.
Yeah, we're going to talk about how they changed, but I think what we're going to end up finding is how much they were the same, but portrayed in a bit of a different way because of the style of the character, the movie series. With we'll go right into it with Christopher Reeves. There was a bit more of a comedic tone to the series of movies that he put together, or that he acted in. I shouldn't say he put together, he acted in. and then there was the Henry Cavill version, which there was a little bit of comedy, but for the most part it got dark.
Yes.
And that's kind of what I think I started to pull together. And even I went back, and as you can see behind me at the top, that's come on, Brett. That is, I'll remember his name eventually, but that was kind of the original Superman series that I remember as a kid. And there's actually some interesting things that actually have happened to the actors themselves, which I didn't know about until I did a little bit of research.
I don't know. I know Christopher Reeve had the accident with the horse.
Right.
And I don't know. Is he still with us, or did he pass away already?
He passed away.
Okay. So God rest his soul.
Yeah, it's really interesting because, so George Reeves is the name of the character here.
Got it. Your name must have been George to work in black and white movies. Like, I think every black and white movie I can think of has a George in it. So, I'm sorry, go ahead.
George Washington.
Yes. Did he have film? Nope, they didn't have film yet.
But
so, George.
Yeah, and then Christopher Reeves, and then Henry Cavill. Those are kind of the 3 that we're talking about. There are more actors and more series that we did not focus on. Since then, there's the Smallville and some other things that were more contemporary in a lot of cases than definitely than the one back here. That actor, George, they did it for 3 seasons, and the year after the last season, or it may have been something that they would have continued on with, but anyhow, he was getting tired and depressed of the series and in life, and ended up with a situation where he either committed suicide or was murdered. In 1959. 1958 was the last of the 3 seasons that he did. And there's the belief that, he he pulled the trigger himself, but back then they didn't do as much investigation, so that's what they labeled it as, a suicide. There's questions that some say maybe it was homicide, but either way, Superman died. And go ahead.
I got to jump in here. We're talking about the one in the black and white, right?
Yep.
So it was a TV show. That one wasn't the movie because he doesn't look familiar to me.
Correct. He was 3 seasons of TV show back in 1956, 7, and 8.
Okay, so he was there and he did it for 3 seasons and then he kills himself, is what they labeled it. As you said. So that's interesting because of the Christopher Reeve thing and how he had a horrible accident with this.
Right.
I did not know that. All right, go ahead. I'm sorry I interrupted you. I just want to make sure I was keeping along.
No, absolutely. I didn't know that until I actually read a little bit of history on this, and I was like, wow, I had to do a little bit more research in order to kind of see what the newspapers and so forth were saying back then. But very interesting that, here we have Superman, and another time when maybe what was portrayed on the screen hid some dark side or depressed side of the actor themselves.
Really?
Now, I look at Christopher Reeves having had the accident. That was not anything that, I would say was tied to, his personality or where he was in as a state of mind. But what I would say is that what he did after that was amazing in terms of his strength and inner strength and desire to help others that may have become paraplegics or quadriplegics or had difficulties at some point in their life. So I think, Christopher Reeves really took on kind of the Superman aura, if you want to call it that, in terms of helping others through his superpower of being able to deal with the situation that he was in and what he had to go through.
That's true, because he could very easily, fallen into a deep depression or something. He could have very easily used that as a cop-out for the rest of his life, and instead I do remember he was like on even award shows years later, and he was still like, no, like keep pushing, don't give up on yourselves and stuff. He was a good inspiration. He really was a Superman.
Yeah, absolutely. So I was very interested in how the character and the actor there really were portraying Superman. And, a few of the things that I don't know, we'll go back and forth in terms of what you picked up on in terms of the character or the movies that we actually saw. But what I found interesting is there was this desire for truth and justice and the American way. That was really here. And he had certain rules that his father, so his name on Krypton before he came to Earth was Kal-El. And his father was Jor-El. So Jor-El was like the scientist on Krypton, and he recognized that the planet was about to explode. And he put his son in a capsule, a spaceship actually, and even in the way old series you can see some of this too. Put him in this spaceship that then went, and he had selected Earth as the place that Kal-El should go, and would actually experience superpowers when he got there. Reason being, there's certain things within Krypton with regard to their sun and how the sun reacted with them in Krypton versus the yellow sun of Earth, which was going to actually be like, if you want to call it a solar superpower to anybody from Krypton that went to the yellow sun, and that gave Superman his super strengths and his superpowers.
Right.
So, but along with being good, there was also times that they lost the characters, or the Superman lost his truth and justice due to either emotion.
It's not alcohol, just so you know.
Oh,
It's. I just realized as I took the drink. It's a carbonated lychee drink that is made in Egypt. And there's a new store that opened here that's got all organic Egypt everything, like nuts to like fruits and veggies and drinks like this. So they're not cheap, but they're not like normal pop either. And I wanted to try it, and I needed something quick other than water because I've been drinking so much water lately. Like I hate the taste of it right now. So I grabbed it, and then I go to take a swig, and I'm like, oh my God, it looks like I'm drinking like a Zima or something like that. Show my age, but it shows how Superman works on me, you know?
Yeah, there you go.
So
Superman in this series, actually in the first Superman movie that Christopher Reeves was in, Lois Lane ended up dying, and then he intervened and flew around the world real fast and got the world to spin backwards and essentially go back in time and bring her back to life, even though his father, in the back of his mind, Jor-El, had told him, do not interfere with the humans in that way. So he's thinking about that, but at the same time, he remembered that when his father died, he couldn't save his father, his father on Earth, and he chose, due to his emotions, not to follow the rules that were set out essentially by his father when he sent him to Earth. He chose to not follow those in order to bring back the woman that he was in love with. So although he was, all things that he could do and fight for truth and justice and everything, he still recognized or chose to follow the rules up to a point, but then if certain things changed, like his emotions, then he got angry about the fact that she died and that it was done by, what Lex Luthor was doing and so forth. But he brought her back to life. Now, on this side, the reason for the big change was due to kryptonite. And as we know in both of them, in all Superman, kryptonite is the one thing that can take his strength and powers away. And kryptonite is basically like a piece of the planet Krypton. And on Krypton, they didn't have these superpowers. So it takes those away. But what it also did here is it changed his perspective completely, and he got very dark, and he became almost a villain. And that was due to Krypton. So what I'm really kind of leading up to here, and where I think the direction of this is going to go, is that everybody has their own kryptonite. Everybody has their own superpowers. The key is that we need to recognize and find out what our kryptonite is. And then when we get triggered, or that kryptonite is brought in front of us, either from outside or from within, we need to know that this is our kryptonite, and we need to step back and figure out how to deal with the situation before the kryptonite turns us to the dark side, if you want to call it that. That was kind of what I was looking at.
I think that's a good idea, a good way of heading with it, because I look at it the same. Like, okay, so the way I guess I looked at it, I like how your perception of the movies went compared to mine. Mine are looking at it, so I didn't do your gray guy, George. I didn't do George. But I did watch the other ones. Now, the original one, 1974 or something like that. I could look it up really quick.
I think it's actually probably a little bit later than that, but
the original one from there, I felt that one. You could feel it almost coming from a comic book. It matched how the progression went, where by the time we get to the final one, that's the most recent one, it was the anger side of Superman we didn't see at the beginning, but now it's more there, and that's how TV led us. If you think about how TV and movies led you. And anger is there, and we have that choice. Do we follow that anger with like what Superman did in one version, and then in the other, he chose to stay like with the love? And it's one of these things where I think it's interesting how it fit with the time frame, but how it also fits with how things changed with technology on that. Because without the movies, I don't think it would have been as influenced into the negative atmosphere. Because, go ahead.
No, I was just going to take one more swing at that one, and that is, think about over the years how the news has changed in terms of what it focuses on, and how the dark, or how the death, or how the things that were not, well, let me put it this way. The things that are more sensationalized are the ones that are not good, as opposed to the good. All you hear about is that you tend to hear about is killing, deaths, everything. And boom, they go in that direction here. And you know, we're not going to talk about this, but it happened in the Batman series too.
It did. Batman went dark there. And what's funny to me is how one of my favorite characters in all of these movies, and it's funny because I'm not as much of a fan as you and I talk about. Like I've not seen two of those three movies. Right. So like when we started this, so for me it was an experience. And what was funny is the oldest one is the one I've seen in the past. I've not been a movie person, so this is all me doing this to learn and talk with you and have conversations. What I'm fascinated with, though, is how the Joker has this depiction of such negativity, but then in the newest movie, it's such a different thing. But it shows a different side of him, and people, instead of seeing it and saying, "Oh wow, maybe there's some things that are broken we need to fix," that's why he ended up this way. They're like, "Oh nope, he's the bad guy." They're glorifying the bad guy, but yet when Superman or Batman do it, it's not, "Oh, they went bad." It's, "Oh no, they're just like." They'll be back.
Right. You know, something took over them in order to make them bad, as opposed to really coming from within. And even, you know, with Christopher Reeve's character and him kind of ignoring what his father had told him. And there's also some other times in there where his emotions really came into play. You know, that, again, that kryptonite, that thing doesn't necessarily have to be that green rock that really takes their powers away, but it can be that green rock within their mind, within their psyche, that comes out and affects them in very much a similar way.
I agree.
So I think sometimes we should take up the Joker as a villain with superpowers in another.
Don't give away what season 2 is yet. Don't give away season.
I didn't say when it was or who it was, or I mean, I did say who it was. Okay.
We should do the Joker. I think having the Joker is one. And then season 3, I think you and I came up with a good idea that I wrote down that when it's ready, we'll talk. I think you and I have some fun coming with us. But no, I agree. So the thing I like about Superman is he's born somewhere else and is sent here. And the only reason his power isn't here, or he has powers here, is because of, like you said, Kryptonium. How many of us, maybe instead of thinking we're from outer space, which have fun, think that if you want, don't take the time to see what our superpower is, and we let the kryptonite like block us and block our light, is what a good way I'd put that, of shining. excuse me, we let that happen, and we let these blocks get in front of us. How can a person find what their kryptonite might be? Or if you don't want to answer that, because I'm going to come back to it, how would a person be able to know what their superpower is when they look inside themselves?
Well, I think that some people have an idea of what their superpowers are and what their kryptonite is. And when I talk about that, I kind of look at, okay, consciously or unconsciously, people know when they're kind of in flow. And when I say in flow, that means that, you know, they're doing something, they're enjoying doing it, the time flies by, they don't even recognize that the day went by, and they come away with it feeling like, wow, this was a really short day, but I really feel great.
Yes.
Now, we don't oftentimes try to associate that and say, well, why is that? But it really is because you're kind of working in your natural flow, your natural genius, your superpower, or with one of your superpowers, because you can be in flow. And I believe that people have more than one superpower. And it all depends on the time and the situation and our mental state at that time. And that kind of goes back to, you know, something that we mentioned in the last one, that is, beauty is in the eye of the beholder at that moment. So
that was a Brett Gordon quote, just so everybody knows. That was a great quote. I wrote that down and I typed it out so I could use it on a social media post. I want you to know I thought that was very profound. But go ahead. So it's in the eye of the beholder at that moment.
And so is, you know, when we get into flow and with our superpowers, it tends to be at that moment, in that situation, whatever we're doing, whatever we're looking at, whatever that beauty is, whatever that task is. And at that moment, we are really kind of super focused on it, and it is within our flow, and we're just going with it. Now, there's other people that if they were trying to do the same thing that we were doing, their moment in mind is different, and the way that they would use that superpower would be different, because each one of us really does have a difference in terms of what our natural genius is. You know, that's something that you know, you and I actually started our interaction, our relationship. Now that we're our relationship started with Brandon taking an assessment that I use when I'm working with people and businesses, and coming up with kind of what his superpower is. And he's cracking up, so I gotta hear.
I made the worst joke, and you like responded so professionally, and I'm like, oh God, I hope that he didn't hear that now. I'm sorry. Go ahead. So, no, that is 100% correct. We met. You did an assessment on me, and we didn't need psychologists to tell me I'm different. We just were able to take the test, and I am a creative type, which means I can see things and bring them into existence. Is that a good way of saying it?
Yeah, you've got this creativity in your mind. Your head is kind of oftentimes up in the clouds as you're envisioning things that can happen, envisioning opportunities, envisioning businesses that you want to get involved in, or things you want to get involved in. And oftentimes you have so many of them that they can either get jumbled up, or you can be moving forward and you're hoping that others are following, and you look back and it's like, where'd they go?
Right. I've had that happen a lot.
Holy cow, where did he go? He's off in La La Land. I'm still back here trying to figure out what the hell he said.
I have experienced that only a few times.
So, but that is a superpower. That is really where you start to get into flow, is when you can sit and start to think about what can be.
Yeah.
What opportunities are. Um, and it doesn't necessarily have to be opportunity. Sometimes it can be, what can go wrong.
Yeah.
But creators are very much, not necessarily in the present. They're kind of focused on, what can be. And that's a cool thing to have. In fact, most businesses, especially a lot of the ones that have really got a brand new thing coming, like the Macintosh computer, the Apples, the Steve Jobs, the Bill Gates, their head is in the clouds. They're thinking about things that may not have been thought about before. Now, when I say that, I always say that there's never an original thought, but there's a different way of putting together information that's out there in a unique way, and that becomes this new idea, this new product, this new theory. Einstein, did he create the theory of relativity? Yes. But did he actually bring that out of thin air? No, he pulled together information that he had received all over and put them together in a different way in his mind, which then came up with the theory of relativity. So
Einstein had great hair.
Go ahead.
Einstein had great hair. I've always been jealous of guys with good hair.
Yeah, I wish I did.
That's the point.
Yeah. Yeah, well, if I cut this hair off, you'll see the point on the top of my head.
I have to be honest, I get that. I get a lot. Like, at least for a bald guy, your head's in good shape. I'm like, where does that sound like a compliment to you? Like, it's not. It's like, thank you. So with Superman, we've talked about how it's kryptonite being a unique creature, how the difference in characters relate. We even talked about how a dark side comes out. Mm-hmm. As individuals, as a leader, and getting to only move one square at a time, how do I position myself with this one to excuse me.
Oh, that was sweet.
That was not even like, it came so fast. How do you position, what tool would I need to be able to position myself to, as Superman, the superhero that could be inside me? How do I get him out, and what tools do you need, or what tool would he be?
So I think to get him out first is to kind of step back and take a look at you from kind of an outside perspective. Okay. As kind of the viewer of your life. Because oftentimes when we're in the moment, when we're in our life, it's kind of like you can't see the forest through the trees. So step back and take a look at your life and look at it from an outsider's perspective, looking at you as opposed to you looking at you.
Okay.
That's going to help to bring a different perspective on things. And if you jot down some of the things that you really enjoy doing, what you've achieved in your life, and then you start taking a look at that list, it's going to bring out more of what puts you into flow, what your interests are, and may offer insight into which of the four energies I work with, being dynamo or blaze or tempo or steel, which one of those kind of is really resonant in you. But that's one way to do it. And I think that oftentimes we get confused, and I think we talked about it a number of episodes back, but we get confused with what we learned in school and what we're skilled at, but is not within our real core talent and energy, being like a creator. And as a result, we can go through life being very good at what we do, but not being necessarily very happy spending our life doing it. And that can create things that we don't recognize as well in terms of frustration, depression, challenges when you're in relationships, because you're not really happy inside with what you're spending a lot of your day doing, especially if you're talking about work.
Yeah.
So you come home and you've already spent the entire day just burning energy, burning out, essentially doing something that you could be very good at, but is not really within your natural core energies.
Yeah.
And that type of depression can come out in many different ways. Sometimes, as we've talked about in the past, in terms of comedians, they can get very frustrated with the way that they view their life, as opposed to, where they would want that life to be, that life off stage, as opposed to that life on stage. And we have the same thing going on with like Superman, and kind of the tool that I picked out this week, and it's a tool that we do use in a shop, but I'm talking about a magnet.
Ooh.
And you say, well, what do you mean a magnet?
I do say, what do you mean a magnet?
A magnet has a positive pole and a negative pole.
Okay.
A positive energy and a negative energy. And that energy comes out depending on which way. Think of it as like a disc magnet, a magnet that's like a coin. And if you have two of them, they both have positive and negative charges. And if you put a positive and negative together, they kind of snap together and they work. But if you put two positives together, they repel, and two negatives repel. And actually that energy field around a magnet actually has like circles, if you want to call it that, or the magnetic field.
Yeah.
So as you start to get toward the edge in between positive and negative, then it's not got the same level of strength as it does on either side, because then you're pretty much right in your core.
Yeah.
Now, why do I say this kind of ties into Superman? Kryptonite is, and Superman's powers are positive and negative. And kryptonite actually, or Krypton, was positive when it was Krypton and the Kryptonians lived there. I mean, it was their Earth. But when you take it into another world, just like when you take your emotional state from one place to another, it can be good in one place and not so good in another.
I'm very comfortable. I'm very understanding of that. I go places and I'm either told, wow, he's amazing, or wow, he's a lot. Like, I do not have an in-between in my life, I think. Like,
well, and that's where a lot of people, I think, get caught into this, and we're caught into it today as we've got this tremendous polarity right now within our country and within our political system. It's either red or blue, Republican or Democrat, you or me, us or them. And that's horseshit.
yeah.
There are many shades of gray, or many colors in the spectrum, visible spectrum and invisible spectrum. And we need to appreciate the fact that there are so many variations that you are not yes or no, black or white. You are a rainbow of colors and frequencies that are beyond what you can see and what most of us can feel. So the magnet has powers and energy that we don't see. We see the impact of them, but we don't see the energy fields. In fact, we don't even feel it when we hold it in our hands. Most people. Some people might. But we need to recognize that that energy is around us all the time. And that energy, if you want to look at it even as us being a magnet, we have our own aura or magnetic field or energy fields around us. Oh, look at that.
Magic.
Now you see it, now you don't.
It was like right within reach and standing up. I'm like, oh, it's out of reach, out of sight. But no, what you're saying is correct. Actually, what I ran through my head, and you can tell me I'm wrong, but like you have a masculine and a feminine side of your brain. And we all know they're combined and all that. But as you said, we produce many colors. We produce many things. Well, the magnetic pole, as you and I were talking, as you were saying, it's almost like, I want to make sure I phrase it correctly. So you have a male and a female in your side of your brain, having that balance of like the not positive, negative, the north, south, all that, like the magnets. It's the same thing as Superman. You have a good and a bad, and you're inside yourself, and having your sides be able to know that they're pushing together and they're inside you, building that out and creating that energy about you. You have that choice of how you're going to produce your energy. Are you going to produce a golden energy like one, or are you going to produce a darker energy that's more along the lines of a negative side? And do you have a tipping point to where you just go completely negative, like the one Superman at the bottom there?
Yeah, exactly. Within ourselves, we do have that positivity, negativity, that male, female, masculine, feminine energy really is how I normally phrase it. How did I say it? Kind of the good, the devil and the angel. You have all of that going on in you all the time. And, you know, a lot of our belief systems drive how we're going to react based on a particular situation at that moment and how we're going to choose to act or react to that. It's not to say that we're getting rid of the positive and negative. We are choosing how we're going to respond. Mm-hmm. And oftentimes people say, you made me do it. This made me do it. It caused me to do this. Bullshit. You chose to do it based on your belief system, the emotions, the feelings, the words you choose to describe that event at that time, at that moment. And we need to recognize all of this energy is around us. All of this energy is within us. We need to take control of that and bring out hopefully what is the best. And I will always say this, it's going to be a choice where it is the best for you, whether you try to say it's the best for the team, the best for the company, the best. It is still a choice that you made. And I guarantee that whatever that choice is, it was ultimately to either create happiness and joy or to avoid pain in different
good
measurements, in different, what am I trying to say here?
So I no, you're good. In different, I have an idea where you're going. I think you can answer it with my question. How can I use the magnet in my life to make sure I'm not using the negative towards a negative and a positive towards a positive? That way they don't push each other away. How do you do that to use the magnet properly from our tool belt?
Well, I think that what we need to do is recognize that we do have a propensity to go in a particular direction. That propensity is based on our belief systems, on what we consider to be right and wrong, events that have happened to us in the past. The way that I try to look at things from my perspective is to try to play devil's advocate. If you play devil's advocate, you're actively choosing to look at the positive and the negative. And you can draw upon the negative in order to respond in a positive way.
Mm-hmm.
So by taking a few moments, even in an intense situation, to step back, to breathe, to think for a second, and to kind of think about what's going on the other side of this. What are they thinking? What are they doing? How can I respond in a way to either diffuse an intense situation or to create a more intense feeling if we're trying to motivate people to do something? And hopefully what we're trying to motivate them to do would be kind of the good for the world as well as the good for us. But that's not always the case. And in that moment, in that time, you have some serious things to think about. And like I would say, Brandon, would you ever kill a child?
No.
Okay, so if you're on a runaway train and to the right is an entire building or city of people, to the left is a little child on the train track, what choice do you make?
I can only choose one, obviously. Like I have to choose.
In this case, there's just one track and two tracks. So not to get your answer on that, but to put it into perspective, there are times in our lives where we are choosing the lesser of two evils, if you want to put it that way, or the greater good. You know, the lives of a few justify the loss of the lives of a few justify saving the lives of the many. That type of a thing. Those things go on within us. But when we start then say, well, what if that child on the track was your child? Now your whole emotions come into it in a different way.
Yeah.
And we have to then really consider the repercussions of the actions or choices that we make.
So go ahead.
No. So I'm just kind of trying to bring out, you know, when we've got this positive and negative, there's always positive and negative. There's always various stages of that or different colors in the spectrum of that energy. But we are always having to make choices, always. And oftentimes we don't think about those choices. We just react as opposed to consciously thinking and doing.
You ready? All right. My head's always in the clouds. So to answer my question too, like I let you led this, okay? Yeah. When you see a negative action, somebody does something that upsets you or negative towards you or someone you love, responding back negatively is not going to be the right answer. Two wrongs don't make a right. We've all heard that. But
two rights make an airplane.
So moving on. So they if I came to you and I started yelling at you about something that wasn't your fault, and you respond back with, what the, Brandon, I didn't do this. And I respond back with, no, it's because, and we just keep yelling. We're not going to get anywhere other than the impasse of both of us. The few for the many, when there's no one else around and you want to fight, that significant other is usually who you fight with. That person close to you, that person in the house, whatever it may be.
Very well be. Mm-hmm.
So it could be anyone that you're close with. So even, or not close with, it could be just someone having a bad day. When that negative comes, be like the magnet. When the negative comes, you don't need that negative. So let your negative put it up and block it so it pushes it away as it comes at you. Is the way I was thinking about it. So like when the positive comes, that negative that's out there, let it absorb the positive. And when the negative's out there, let the negative push you back, so just like two negative magnets, you know?
Yeah, I mean, you can look at it in many different ways. Another way to look at it is when somebody's coming at you with a negative, go at them with a positive, and the two of them will balance out, and then you will be in a more neutral situation.
Boom! I like that. See, look at this. I like where your head. Oh man, Brett, you ready? I'm gonna end it. I gotta. As I choke on my own spit. So you need a balanced situation. So if I come at you angry, and I'm like, look, it has been a week already, and it's only Monday, and it's not. I shouldn't say that. It's been a very good day. I've had a lot of good happen. But to get where we are today, when you have a situation where, let's say I was having a really bad day, or you were, started yelling at you, the best thing you would do would stay calm, because it would be a balanced situation, right? I tell people all the time that even at the end of that, if we are fighting and I'm coming at you hard and you're staying calm, I bet at the end of that situation, because it stayed balanced, neither of us are angry and neither of us are having any emotions towards anything. It keeps both emotions there. So that's why the last year and a half of my life I have spent dedicated to not fighting. I don't fight anybody anymore. Like, I don't want to, because I can easily go from 0 to 1,000 as fast as a rocket. And I have a very dominating personality on top of being charismatic, smart, and a big pain in the ass. So I can really make people mad fast. And it's one of these things where I learned I don't like being upset. I don't like being mad with people. I don't like people being mad for no reason, and I don't like feeling the energy of that negative. So I wanted to change. And what was funny is that's how my company came about. Because if I kept calm in every situation, it would be balanced, and you would end each situation in a delight. And I don't know if you can see that, but
Yes.
it says it on there.
Yep. Okay.
Yeah, it says it on there, calm, balanced, delight. Ooh, wait, there it is.
PD.
Bingo. And my thing is you hit the nail on the head with that. Keep it as a balanced thing. If someone's coming at you negatively, just take a moment to calmly respond. And if you're not in a good headspace to respond, don't put yourself in a situation that's going to upset you. That superhero inside you that could be your kryptonite. It's just being around negativity, and you don't know it until you stop. So, man.
Right. I mean, we just saw something like that happen at the nation's capital, right?
Yes, very much so.
We just saw where people were feeding on. They kept getting more intense. There wasn't an authority figure there that was really trying to back it down.
Yeah.
Now, sometimes in order to be able to bring the intensity down, you may have to meet that person at the intensity they're at. Otherwise, they're going to look at you and like, what the F, you don't understand what the hell I'm talking about. You're just sitting back there and you're not in their world. Sometimes you have to step it up into their world and then bring them down. And
I've done that.
If you were just on the opposite side, just always playing that calm role, somebody that's very in the moment and very excited may look at you as, I'm not going to listen to anything you have to say because you just don't relate to what I'm talking about. Now, if you can get intense and then lead them to a more calm place, that's like bringing the positive and negative together. But first, you've got to come from a little bit different area or come slowly together and then bring it together.
I agree. Knowing yourself too through that, though, because at the end of the day, if anybody goes to make everybody else from their peak and you're starting to stay calm, you have to know what people are worth in your circle to go to that peak with and bring back down. Because I'm an empathetic person. I could easily be out on the street and I'd be standing next to the homeless guy holding a sign with him just because I feel bad. And that's not a joke. I've done that, because the guy he was such a nice guy, and he was there for months. And every time I got the red light, I'd talk with him and give him money. And the one day it was pouring down rain. I just didn't like that another human being was suffering like that. So what I did was I got a leather jacket from my house that I don't wear anymore because it's like just old. And I brought it back out to him and I stood out in the rain with him. And it was just like, that's who I am. Now he told me his life story and I didn't let him like come back to the house and shower or anything, but like you need to have a balance on that too and know who keeps you balanced. Because I honestly, like you said, if you can go up and come back down, I can go up very quickly, like I said. But I had to learn how to, instead of having nitrous and turbo shoot me up, I had to learn how to handle the emotion to build it up, and that way I don't have to overdo it.
You control the valve.
Yes. Ooh, yeah. That's a good one. All right, so who we doing next?
Well, to be honest,
do you want to think and then text me?
Yeah, I'm gonna need to do that.
I like it. That's fine.
I'm not sure. One reason I was wearing this shirt today, even Homeland Security.
Yeah.
Since 1492.
Oh, I like it because Christopher Columbus and everything.
And really, what we're talking about, and we have been talking about in terms of Superman, is truth and justice and the American way. Now, I question when people think of things like the American way, what is that? And we've seen it play out in violence today, or recently, and we've seen it in the way that we look at like the Native Americans. We see it in the movies that have created our idea of what the American way is. Guess who was here before the white man?
Your shirt.
Guess who took away all their land? The white man. It is this type of thing that we have to bring into perspective, and it's not always what we're taught in school. Again, not always what we see on TV, and definitely not always what we see in the movie. Yes. So, going back to energies and everything, energies are built around belief systems. Belief systems are held very tightly to our identity. Mm-hmm. Our brain will do just about anything to be congruent with our identity. If we don't question our belief systems, if we don't recognize what our kryptonite is, which oftentimes can be our belief systems, we cannot participate toward bringing the world to a better place, bringing ourselves to a better place, bringing our children to a better place. We need to recognize what our belief systems are and recognize that sometimes those belief systems are our kryptonite. And when we start to question that, it can be very, very challenging because we are getting at our core identity. Mm-hmm. We are asking ourselves, do we, should we, could we change our identity, which will then eliminate part of our kryptonite? So, and kind of one last thing to kind of bring this into is, and
nope, we're done.
Lower pictures on both of these is what brought Superman back into balance, although it wasn't delight, Kathy. It was the love of people around them.
Yes.
Love was able to bring them back to congruity, to take them from the dark side and bring them back to the light, to bring that negative to the positive, to balance the negative and the positive. Mm-hmm. Which oftentimes, you can't really go from negative to positive without going through neutral, just like you can't go from drive to reverse in your car without going through neutral first. Mm-hmm. Even though neutral may be a short period of time, you still had to go through it in order to be able to move to either positive or reverse, to forward or negative, backward, positive, negative.
Excuse me. I was trying not to cough on air.
I know. Well, that's another thing that's really interesting in today's world. If you go out and you're in a store and you got your mask on, or if you don't have your mask on and you're outside and you start coughing, people look at you like, "Oh my God, you're going to kill me. You're going to kill my grandparents. You're going to kill my kids."
Yeah.
And that's all horseshit. That's
Yep.
all what we're hearing in the news, and it's scaring the crap out of people. And again, this is. Do some research on yourself. Do some research on what you're believing in, because that can be your kryptonite. And believe me, that's what media does. That's how people get you to buy their product oftentimes.
Yeah.
You know, you're bringing in a belief system and you're trying to get somebody to go along with what you're saying. And in cases where you're being isolated.
Yeah.
Oftentimes the only person that you have to look at to try to figure this out is yourself. And when you're playing devil's advocate with some of the things like your belief systems, it can be
Devastating.
very, very challenging.
Yeah.
In terms of your emotions and how you are going to respond. So check out and recognize your kryptonite. Recognize that as a magnet, we have a positive and negative. Everybody has poles, but our energies are a full spectrum. And we can play in any part of that spectrum that we choose. It is our choice as to which part of that spectrum we play in. It is not imposed upon us, but there are times that we have to rise to a level of intensity that we don't normally play in, or we have to come down to a level of intensity that we don't normally live in. So one thing like creators generate a lot of energy, a lot of excitement, because they're so excited about their ideas and things that come up and where they see the world is.
Mm-hmm.
But oftentimes the people they're talking to don't have that same energy level. And that's when the creator needs to kind of come down a little bit, get more into where are these people? Where are my team? Where is my team? And then lift them to where you were. There's others that are going to get all excited, but as soon as you walk away, they're going to be like, okay, well,
Yeah.
the power source left.
Yeah.
So, at least that's what I picked up.
Oh no, that's my experience with that too. Is if I don't stay, and it's not just my company. It's been when I ran places. If you don't, it's hard to keep. It's hard to get people to see your vision when you're a creator, especially if they're not. Especially if they only have their own stuff to focus on. And we've had a year of distractions, so being able to really have things grow, getting people to see your vision is tough. And it needs to be where I come out of the clouds and I focus on what needs to be done.
So with that, let me quote something from a Superman movie. This is Jor-El talking to Superman Kal-El. Live as one of them. This is as he's talking, bringing him to Earth, bringing Kal-El to Earth, or sending him to Earth. Live as one of them, Kal-El, to discover where your strength and power are needed. Always hold in your heart the pride of your special heritage. They can be great people, Kal-El. They wish to be. They only lack the light to show them the way. For this reason, above all, their capacity for good, I have sent them to you, my only son. Now, this was from Superman. Tell me if that doesn't relate to something you heard in the Bible.
Oh yeah, definitely. I gave my one and be only gotten son. is biblical as well. It's also, yeah, that's exactly
Buddha, that's Muhammad,
Yep.
that's it doesn't matter what the religion is.
Yeah.
That is a common story. And yet here it is in Superman. And is in recognizing that we do all have and really wish to be, I believe, good.
I do too.
But oftentimes we either lose focus on the light, or our kryptonite gets in the way and blocks the light. So that's how I look at leaving our episode today.
I think it's a great one, Brett. I like how we had this conversation. We both had very different opinion on how the movies went, but like it flowed. I like it. Guys, keep your magnet close to you. Find your energies, bring them in, and let it circle. Let the magnet help bring the positive and the negative in balance. Brett Gordon, this has been a great episode. Thank you very much. This is One Square at a Time. Thank you guys for listening. Sponsored by Delight Cafe CBD. Brett, give your company a shout out.
Yep. My company is Businesses Are People Too, and it really focuses on the fact that a business is nothing without its people. So recognize the value of the people, grow the people as a person, then they will grow as a leader.
I love it. I love it. Very well. Brett, it's been an honor working with you again today. I look forward to knowing what movie I'm going to be watching next or two. And over the weekend, when the Browns beat the Kansas City Royals this weekend, I look forward to hearing it.
Chiefs.
Kansas City Chiefs. Thank you. Yes. Sorry. Wow. That showed I'm excited and nervous about this game. Just being honest, as a Superman, like if the year the Browns win the Super Bowl is the same year no fans are allowed to the Super Bowl. What a surprise. Like
crazy.
My fingers are crossed. I'm hoping to maybe get if the Browns go, when the Browns go to the Super Bowl, I want to sign a deal with Flying J and have them bring me in to be their CBD rep from then on, and I can go to the Super Bowl. That's my goal. I'm going to be might not be this year, but I will go to a Super Bowl with the Browns.
Perfect. That sounds fantastic.
I love it. Brett, you have a great one. Thank you again, and I will talk to you soon.
All right, Brandon. Sounds great. Take care.
You too.